Hello, this is saxophonist Antonio Parker, and this is a conversation in jazz, where we are promoting jazz through telling the stories. Today we are presenting part 2 of our interview with vocalist and executive director of the DC Jazz Festival, Miss Sunny Sumter. We ask you to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so we can let you know when we are posting another video or going live. We also ask you to donate to our Cash App in order to support the channel and to help us to produce future videos. Our Cash App is $Jazzology 101. That's $Jazzology 101. Enjoy the video. Okay, we're back. This is a conversation in jazz, and I'm talking to the lovely Sunny Sumter. Sunny, I learned a lot about you on that first part that I did not know, and you know, you the bomb. So what?
That takes us back.
We're gonna go. Yeah, there you go. We're gonna go back and talk about your career as a performing artist and as a recording artist. When did you say, I'm ready to perform live?
I don't know that you ever say I'm ready. I remember doing some special guest performances with Kevin Toney when he played around town. I did some things in New York, a lot of recording. I think when I was at Howard, and I started to write more music, I realized, okay, I can do this. I can sing songs from the American Songbook, because as a vocalist you do that, but I can start to do my original work too. Okay, I'm ready.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
And were you developing those skills when you were at Howard?
I was, definitely. I think we, was it I'm trying to remember his name, Webster Young?
Yeah.
Is that his name?
The trumpeter?
No, the teacher he was a vocal teacher there, Webster.
I wouldn't know.
Anyway.
Okay.
With Kahembe and Grady Tate, especially, Grady was very instrumental in building your repertoire, build your book.
Okay.
He'd say, okay, every time you see me, I want you to bring 10 new songs. And you're building a book, bring it in a binder, have your key. And that was really helpful because it gave me something to do. It was a project. So by the time that year went by, I probably had about 100 songs.
Wow.
And then I started working at the Howard Inn.
The hotel that you said?
The hotel.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I started working, and Mark Prince, I remember, was on drums. Clifton Brockington played trumpet. I'm trying to think who was playing piano. I know somebody's going to call me up and
was
say,
it Raymond?
I was. Raymond sometimes.
Okay.
So maybe it was...
Vince, I know Vince used to play with you.
Vince sometimes, but he was on the road a lot.
Okay.
But it was amazing, that period, because a lot of people from Howard would come, and so because I had a weekly gig at Howard Inn.
Really? I didn't know that.
So people would come, and I was building my following.
Yeah, and you had a lot of friends that supported you.
A lot of family. See, that's what I get to.
There was
people
family?
Don't know is I got 100 family.
Wow.
Big family.
Yeah, I always noticed you had people like after the gig. You had
I have a huge family. The Sumters and the Jordans are big in DC. Oh,
wow.
Yeah. And not only that, but I have a lot of friends throughout the years and their friends. And so, yes, I had a big following in DC. So I started doing Blues Alley, and then I'd had the Washington Plaza gig.
Okay.
And at that gig, Corcoran Holt's dad used to bring him to play with me sometimes. And he used to carry his bass, because Corcoran was a freshman at Duke Ellington.
Wow.
So his dad used to bring his bass up, and because Corcoran couldn't carry it. Chris Funn. At one point, I had Chris Funn,
Wow.
Janelle, and Clyde Adams.
Clyde,
My favorite was James King, Nasser Aberdeen, and Alan Johnson.
Yeah.
That band.
Yeah.
That was
and
a great
I
band.
remember when we used to rehearse, you would always bring some fruit basket. So you
that was that Southern grandma in me.
Yeah. Yes.
Always taking care of people.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you need?
Yeah.
You know?
Now, what were some of the challenges of leading a band? I know, when you're dealing with other people, because everybody doesn't have your sense of work ethic or your sense of.
And that's probably it. That was you know, I was fortunate to play with some of the folks that I just mentioned. You know, that, you know, after week after week after week, people want to do other things. If they're just singing playing your book. You know, I think for some people it just got, you know, people got tired of the same. You know, I think people can do that in other bands, right? So I think for me as a leader, it's just getting people to commit, because, you know, you have a big gig and then somebody's taking another gig somewhere and then you have to find somebody to sub. So that was just probably my hardest, is just keeping a consistent band.
Yeah.
Because there was so much music at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, DC was thriving.
Yeah. And then what did you have the problem with, I can't make that gig, but I can make this gig?
Yeah, then that's what I mean.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
and you know this as a player.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so you might be committed to 4 or 5 different bands. And I think that was the challenge, because I'd get really big gigs, and then the one person I would really need to anchor that band couldn't do it.
Yeah, yeah. So did you like leading a band?
I loved it. I loved leading a band. I loved the challenge of it. I loved I'm a leader. I'm a natural leader.
Yeah. Well, and you know, because sometimes I like being in the background. I like not leading a band, because now I don't have to worry about dealing with the audience. You loved all that stuff.
I loved all of it, all aspects of it. All aspects of it. Oh, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's wow. And so then you, at some point, now did you get to travel and perform?
I did. You know, when the Getting to Know You record, and Steve Wilson, I love you. Steve.
Oh, I was listening to that this morning. So beautiful. Yes.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, he was beautiful spirit. Yeah.
He was so great. Yeah. And George Colligan was on the record.
George. I was listening. Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know, when that record came out, it did really well.
Yeah.
And so I was invited to come all over the world to play.
Wow.
And you know, it wouldn't pay a lot, so I'd have to go by myself and then pick up a band there. But it was fantastic, because it gave me an opportunity to learn to get to know other cultures, and sometimes I'd be there a month, 2 months. One time I spent a year in Italy.
Really? Wow.
And with Sergio Caputo. Hi, Sergio. And that was fantastic. And it really let me know how jazz is everywhere.
Yes.
I mean, and in fact, it's more respected in other
Ain't that
places
so?
around the world than it is here.
And they make you, and you're like, wow.
Your show would be sold out, and you say,
Yeah.
this is the first time I've ever been to this city.
Yeah, ain't that, yeah. So, what did you have someone that you looked at to pattern yourself? Say, okay, I mean, you know, like Diane Reeves or somebody that you say, okay, I want to be like, or you just kind of knew what you had a.
I didn't want to be like anybody. Although I love, to this day, still love Diane Reeves. I love who she is as a person. She's called herself an endangered species. That
Really?
was one of her songs that she wrote, because she always felt like she had her own voice, and her voice was a jazz voice.
Wow.
And so I've always respected her for her walk.
Yeah.
But others, you know, Cassandra, has been extraordinary to watch her.
Yeah.
You know, grow so much. And then musicians, you know, I'm a big admirer of Antonio Hart to this day.
Oh yeah,
I love what he does.
Yeah,
I love that he can be a teacher.
Yeah.
He can be a band leader. He does work with the Herbie
He's another
Hancock.
serious cat that just
Very serious.
Yeah.
And every time he play, you hear him play.
Yeah.
Either in
Very
person or
studious. Yeah.
it's very
Yeah,
intentional.
he's that, a beautiful brother too.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, my big thing. I mentioned this too when I did something on Gail Boyd's alternative jazz venues. I was on a segment for her show, and you know, I think the biggest thing that I'm learning right now is to be inspired every day, which I mentioned that I share that with my kids. And I think that jazz is amazing in that you can find so much inspiration.
Yes, no doubt.
From so many great people.
Yeah. I remember when I used to hear you, I just heard a lot of Phyllis Hyman.
Really?
I could hear that in your, especially when you sang ballads. I just heard that spirit.
Coming from Philly.
Yeah. No, I heard, did she influence you?
She did.
I heard her in your,
She did.
Really? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she influenced me so much. And I don't have a good story to tell of Phyllis, but I'm going to tell it.
Wow, okay.
So I grew up loving her. And she even came to Duke Ellington when she was in town for Sophisticated Ladies. And I met her. She's larger than life. And when I was a teenager, my adult musician friends would take me to Blues Alley to see her. And I just thought she was God.
Wow.
Because she was. She's towering, huge
yes.
woman. So when I moved to New York, Joel Rodriguez was her road manager. And he says, I was doing a gig, I think with Regina Carter. We did, I can't even remember the place where we played. Regina would probably know. And she came. Phyllis Hyman.
Wow.
Joel brought her. And I was so nervous, and I'm walking over to her like, what am I going to say? You figure. So I say to her, I said, I've loved you my whole life. I'm looking at her like, I've loved you my whole life. And she looks at me, I guess she was so down on herself that she says, well, you must not, you're not anything if you're going to be if you're going to be looking up to me.
Wow.
And she said that to me, and it just, everything that I had thought about her just dissipated in that moment.
Yeah.
And I don't think I played a Phyllis Hyman record for years.
Wow.
From that, and it took me a long time, and I think Gordon helped with this, Gordon Chambers, to realize that she had a lot going on in her world, and so it was hard for her to give to other people.
Yeah.
And to be positive because she had so much. But yes, that's my Phyllis Hyman story, and if I sound a little bit like her, wow.
No, I heard I hear beyond. It's the spirit. It's like I hear that. That's what I got. I mean,
some of the nuances.
Yeah, that's what
I could see. I can hear what you're saying.
Yeah. So that I've always, I think I've told you that a long time ago, but So back to you're performing, you're doing this, your recordings. Let's talk about your first recording was Getting to Know You.
That was done in Warm Valley Studio at Louis Shear before Louis moved to Palm Springs.
Yeah.
He had a studio.
So how many CDs do you have?
4. So,
Really?
So that one was Getting to Know You. I did a project with Maple Shade.
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
Maple Shade and
telling me,
Pierre Spray.
Yeah.
And what the beauty of that was spending 2 weeks with Larry Willis, Keeter Betts, and Jimmy Cobb.
Wow.
I mean, I'm still pinching myself. What an extraordinary.
And how did that come about? How did you get that?
So Pierre I was performing every week at the Washington Plaza, and Pierre came up one day and brought Larry and said, we want to do a project with you. I had never heard of Maple Shade. And so I said, okay. I did a little research on it. I told you, Brother I talked to me about it. And I did it. And I think we were in the studio 6 months later. And Larry was great in that Larry is such an incredible arranger.
Yeah.
So I went in with the set of songs that I wanted to do. By the time it was over, I only did 2 of those songs.
Wow.
He wanted me to do Daydream, which was lovely.
You know what? I wrote a song Daydream used to perform. I don't know if you remember. Once in a while.
Yes.
There are they are the daydreams. I was so honored when you used to perform that. I think you used to combine it. I think you used to combine that.
I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you feel about? I don't know if peers do each other's songs nowadays.
I think we should still do that.
Yeah, but I was like, wow, at the time. And
I remember that. Wow. But that Maple Shade project was really great because everything was stripped down. Pierre made all of his microphones.
Wow.
He used to put a nickel in laptop to produce a certain sound. It was an lovely audiophile world of recording.
He was an interesting kind of cat. I've been there. Yeah.
Interesting.
I haven't seen him in years.
I haven't seen him in years too. But
And
God
you said
bless him.
you got to meet
Shirley Horn.
Shirley Horn.
Shirley Horn. He had brought her one day to just sit there.
Get out
Talk
of here.
about intimidation, but I wasn't intimidated. But she was like that angel that was just there saying, "You got this."
Really beautiful.
Didn't say anything.
That's beautiful.
And it was lovely. I ended up spending a full day with Shirley Horn when the city honored her, and I opened for her. I'd just come back from a gig in France, and I just landed the plane, got off, and went right to the Lincoln Theater, and so I just stayed there, and I ended up. She came in early to do her sound check, and she didn't want to leave.
Wow.
This is when she was having trouble walking. So I was pregnant with Layla at the time. So that was early 2001. And I remember she said to me, I told her, "Oh, I'm pregnant and I don't know what to do." And she said, looked me straight in my face. She doesn't say much. She says, "You can leave this and raise your children and come back, and you'll have much more to say, and you'll be able to really spend that quality time with your children." And that was the decision. I made that decision after talking to Shirley.
Wow. So I was going to just ask you that. Before I do, so you said 4 hours.
Yeah, so, oh my gosh, the Freedom Project, Bill Worrell, who is an amazing, filmmaker, artist. He did, DC Space. He did all the Freedom Plaza Jazz festivals back in the day. Bill wanted to do this Freedom Project. So I did this project. It was incredible. Wow. It was all about the freedom of music and jazz. And I think that project is so important right now. I should actually put it back out.
Yes. In
2021. There's so much relevancy to now.
Okay.
But that project was really powerful, but it was a different voice.
Okay.
And I think it kind of took people in another direction because they were used to getting to know you, Maple Shade, and then here's this, big, voice about, freedom songs. And
Gotcha.
But I love that project. I still love it to this day. And then I did a peace project, which it's definitely jazz, and I can't even believe it. It feels like a lifetime ago.
Wow, beautiful.
Because
can people still get your recordings?
I think you can get some of it online.
Okay.
I've got a lot of it in my basement.
I'm saying, y'all can go. You can hit Sunny up. And get,
a lot of it in my basement.
Yeah. But that's beautiful, and it's beautiful to document yourself.
It is.
Because believe it or not, I did that years ago, but it's still new to somebody.
That's right. It's still new to somebody. That's a good point. So,
you begin to tell us why you decided to put the music down, and so that came from Shirley Horn.
She
you stopped singing.
She planted the seed. She made me look at Layla when Layla was born, and made me realize that she was my reason for being. Before, music was my reason for being.
Wow. And you just decided to just...
I said, I can't... I was in Indonesia performing. And I thought, this is the last time that I'm going to be touring. I need to go back home.
So you made a decision.
And I did. And it was a good decision. It was the right decision. Because at the time, I was married.
Yeah.
And, then to become a single mother, there was no way I could do.
And you never, when you would go and see people perform, say, "Oh, I miss it." You didn't have, oh, wow.
Oh, my, but I've never, no.
Okay.
No regrets about that at all.
Okay, wow. And you stayed in the music. You stayed around music.
Because I'm a jazz advocate.
So, you think you're going to ever get back to the stage at some point?
I think I will. When Kobe graduates from college, I'll probably go back to it because, as Shirley said, I have a lot more to say. And she even said, "You'll make more money."
Wow, yeah.
But I will. I'll get back to it.
One more question before we go to our final part. What is it like being a mother?
It's the greatest gift that I've been given.
Okay.
Is to help these incredible spirits navigate this life and to be there to answer questions as best I can. Although, unlike us, they Google everything.
Yeah.
So we don't know anything.
Yeah.
You know, we'll tell them something and they go on Google and be like, "That's not what it is. Google says this."
Yeah.
What?
Did you have to have patience? Did you have to develop that?
You know,
Or did they,
patience is definitely the underlying principle to parenting. And you know this, right? You have to have so much patience when it comes to young people. And you have to, and a lot of times, allow them to fall, allow them to make their own choices.
Yes.
And live by the decisions that they make. And so, yes, I've learned extraordinary patience.
Yeah, what's the hardest thing about being a parent?
Is the hardest thing for me right now, being a parent in 2020, is the world that we live in.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about.
Yeah. Some parents have a problem letting go. I know as a father, and I sent my kids a text. I said, look, I got to let you go, you know, because you're trying to help them, and whenever they call, they can call mommy and get it, or daddy and get it. And sometimes you have to say no. And because it's that you're my parent, you're supposed to, you know, so, you know, I don't know. Do you find that?
No, because my grandmother and my parents let me go at 18. So I don't have a problem with letting. I'm good. Get a job.
Yeah. You did what you're supposed to do. I got you.
Yes.
Got you.
I have some time. You know, Kobe's 15, and he's at an interesting time in his life as a young. He's going through rite of passage. So,
gotcha.
His dad is going to have to be very close to him during the.
I understand. Oh yeah, I understand. So our final section, we're going to talk about. You know, I have to say, you're the we're Generation X, and I like to think that, you know, whether it's jazz or anything else, there's a line that generation has to connect from generation to generation.
Yeah.
I feel like our generation is like the last of before this technology and all this. We know that time when there were no computers. We know that time when there were no cell phones and all that. And you had to, you know, you respected.
Landline.
Yeah, landline. And I remember coming up, you didn't curse in front of adults. You had respect for adults. Even people that were older than you, they accorded them a certain level of respect, you know. So I remember I was the kind of kid that always asked a bunch of questions. And that was the connection. And so I don't know if this generation asks questions the way we do. Anyway, I say all this to say that I think that this is our time in terms of leadership, in terms of what the world needs, because we are the connecting link. A lot of times people want to be leaders, and they have all the nuances of leadership, but sometimes you got to still be able to connect. And I am so proud of you. You know, you are the executive director of the DC JazzFest. I mean, that's huge. Now, when I was like, make sure I'm representing that. I'm representing you. But I mean, it's almost as if all the things we talked about prepared you for this moment. How did you become the executive director of the DC JazzFest?
So I have to first just acknowledge Charlie Fishman, who's the founder, who brought me on board to help out with partnerships, because at the time I was working for Aspen Institute, and I really have a strong connection with a lot of partners around the city and around the country and even the world, just a connector. I'm a connector. So I was happy to play that role. In fact, I was still working at Aspen at the time. And I think, the Jazz Festival was going through an interesting period. Mayor Gray got into office and eliminated earmarks. So the festival, which had been given $1 million to become this nation's jazz festival, by nature of being in the nation's capital, we got our financial legs just taken out from under us. And so it's really been a steady just ascension since 2009.
Wow.
And I have to give Charlie and his wife Stephanie a lot of credit because it started in their basement.
Wow. Yeah.
It started in their basement, and this, the beautiful thing about, and I don't want every time I hear that jazz is dead, I just want to, because I think jazz is thriving as an art form. I think what's happening now with the pandemic is interesting because our venues are closing.
Yes.
And so the places where we can perform, we're going to have to figure out how we create new venues and new platforms. But this is, a lot of musicians moved to DC because of the jazz family in this town.
Yes.
And I remember you saying recently that you thought that jazz, the jazz family in DC is not as connected as it should be. And I'm going to just respectfully disagree from my seat. Gotcha. So I'm talking as a leader in the jazz world. As I'm connecting jazz in all areas, right? So the jazz festivals, the Embassy Series, the jazz education in the schools, all the ways that jazz can live and breathe and have a life. I'm involved in that, and so
you're seeing it from
I can see it from another perspective. But I think the beauty about jazz, and it is a vibrant art form, just like theater is here in DC, just like dance, is that we have such a high quality level of musicianship in this town.
No doubt.
People are moving here. John Barbarelli said, I moved here because I'm like,
No doubt.
these cats got it going on.
I think what I meant by that is, when we, like that vibe we had, when you were in New York, we would hang out. We would, and maybe I'm kind of from another generation. I don't know what's going on with this. But even back before integration, those guys lived like Train and those guys. They lived in Monk. They lived in the same vicinity. So there's a like a lot of the young cats. They're going to school. They're learning the music, and they sound wonderful. But they're not getting the stories. They're not getting the like. I don't.
But guess what? Larry Willis, Gary Bartz, they used to say the same thing about us.
Really?
Oh, they're in school, they're learning it. And now we're saying the same thing. It's amazing how it comes full circle. But the generation that's under us, they are very connected. They are incredibly close.
Yeah. It's a different kind
They are. Yeah. I mean, I think about Rochelle and Christy and that group, and I think about Elijah and Mark Meadows and Chris Fun and his. They are really incredibly connected.
Okay. Maybe it's because
I think
it's a generational thing. It might be that. Yeah.
And we now at our age are raising families. We're teaching. We're doing other things. So the connections that we used to make, we don't have the time and space to do that. And that's what it is. But the DC Jazz Festival is one of the largest festivals in the world right now because of partnerships and because of the thriving aspects of jazz in this town. Wow. The people are coming from, last year we had 80,000 people come to one day at the wharf. Wow. They had to bring the police for crowd control. It was crazy.
Now, what goes into doing all that? I'm not, it's not no poof.
No, it's not no poof. It's not, I love that. It's not a poof. It is careful, strategic planning, and it is an incredible, dedicated board that have tentacles all around. So it's Events DC and Destination DC and Pepsi, and it's LCG, my chairman, and it's Michael Sonnenreich, who's from a different aspect of DC. It's all these people that love this music. Ron Abramson, that say, how do we make this big? And then we work carefully, methodically, year after year.
Wow. And
last year was, 36% of the people came from outside of DC, meaning outside of the DMV. They were getting on planes coming from Europe, from Asia. They were coming down from Canada. They were coming from California. And they literally ascended. We're a 10-day festival. The last weekend is the culminating weekend. We had 148,000 people.
Wow.
I mean, that's extraordinary.
Wow, that's beautiful.
That's extraordinary. And I think it really speaks to the fact that there is something for everyone in jazz. We had go-go, we had big band, Terry Lynn Carrington, we had Michael Franks that weekend, we had Sean Jones. I mean, it was so beautiful. Kenny Garrett.
So share, what are some of the great things that the festival's done in terms of educating? My thing has always been, I teach in the DC public schools, and one of the things I would like to see is our little African American students at these, because when I was coming up, it wasn't just the music; it was the ambient. It was being around, and we have a lot of teachers that work in the DC schools.
Yes, we do.
And we have to figure out a way, possibly. I know it's like busing and it's a lot, but when we have our festivals, I would love to see how we can get some of our, because I don't know if many of our, some are, but many of our kids, I think, need to get out their neighborhoods when you have these doors and come on down, and be around different people that look different than you. Listen to some music that you're not going to hear in your community, and because a kid might say, "Wow,
that's it."
And how do we develop this? Because that's what I love. We Shall Overcome.
And you've got that great music book series too that I think is a really good tool.
Yeah, but I just I want our kids, young kids, underprivileged, I say, and I know because I've done some things that through the DC JazzFest, working with kids, and I just think I want to do that on a larger scale. And
we will be calling you to do that.
Okay.
Because we're doing a lot of virtual things right now, but I think you have to meet kids where they are.
Gotcha.
So Claude Bailey, was our founding chair, whose son Paul is a trumpeter now. He studied under Sean Jones. Claude used to take Paul to see Roy when he was 9.
Wow.
And so that's fortunate. I mean, most kids don't get it that way. So they have to go, we have to go into the schools. And there was a time when music wasn't even in the schools, as you know. I think that's slowly coming back.
Yeah.
But we have to make sure that jazz is a music that kids hear about young.
Yes, yeah.
We have, one of the first things I did when I came onto the JazzFest was because of Layla and Kobe loving jazz when they were babies. They didn't know if it was jazz. They just knew it as good music. So I said, we're going to have a program where we're going to teach toddlers, 18 months to 5, how to read, how to do math, these amazing jazz-inspired books. The one on Ella Fitzgerald, they've got one on Louis Armstrong. Let's go in, let's have music in the background so that it's subliminal, but they get it.
Yeah.
They are tomorrow's jazz fans.
Yes.
We started that program in 2010. It's now 10 years old. Rochelle did part of it. She was amazing. She took it to another level. Rochelle Rice, love you. Jessica Settles, she was a part of it. Oh my gosh, she did some great things. Heidi Martin's leading it now. But that's one aspect. That's that age group. Middle school, I think you've got to get in and teach them around jazz and hip hop. So we had as one. There's other forms too. But Nate Jolly helped us build this jazz and hip hop project that we did with Sam Prather. In fact, we recorded it in here.
Wow.
And we just gave it to DCPS. It's on their portal. You could get it.
Wow.
It is amazing. And what it does is we took the frameworks, the DCPS music frameworks, and we put it in there.
Wow, beautiful.
And King Los, who's a rapper, we brought him in, and he does this whole thing. It's incredible.
Wow. I got to check that out. Yeah.
I'll make sure that you get it. But it's things like that. But we have a family engagement piece, too, where we say to DCPS, we'll give tickets to kids, but we want their parents to come, too.
Gotcha.
We had 200 of them go see John Baptiste.
Wow.
We gave away 200 tickets to see John Baptiste. We did it for Snarky Puppy. We did it for Bobby McFerrin when we did the Warner Theater thing. So that's another piece, too, is to get kids to go and share jazz with their family, with their caretakers. And I just think that a lot of those people have come back and they said, I remember when I came with my...
Yeah, that's how you get... That's how you...
Yeah, that's how you
when
get
I first heard... when I got into jazz, no one had to sell it to me.
Right.
I find that, a lot of people, as a teacher, you have people that come in and do these jazz in the schools. And just me being critical, one thing I noticed is so much and I get it, you got to justify the program, educate, but I have this idea, like Roy Hargrove would come and just hit. Don't start explaining it, just bang, dun, dun, diggity, dun, oh, Freddie, and just let them experience it.
And let them experience it.
And like a concert, not a jazz in the school.
Right, just a concert.
Just because sometimes you can't explain everything. You just got to experience it. But it's great to know that y'all doing all that. It's beautiful.
When Roy used to come and do the festival every year, and this is when we were down at the mall, we would see so many young kids just staring at him.
Yeah.
Because I think he was approachable, because he always looked like a kid.
But he had something special. He had some people. I believe that some people are born with a certain, like I remember Christian McBride and Joe Davis when they were young, like playing like, and I'm like, some people are born with that thing, whatever that is.
Oh my gosh.
And Roy, and Roy was one of them guys. He just had it. He was hip. He was unique. He was unique. He was cool. He was, whatever
He had the RH factor.
Yeah, there you go. How'd you feel when he passed, by the way? That was our.
Get me emotional.
We lost.
He's a friend.
Yeah.
He is a friend, a brother, a friend. Yeah. So I heard when I was at the Philadelphia Summit that Gerald Beasley's doing. And my ex-husband, Simba, called me to tell me. He thought I knew.
Oh, wow.
And I just broke down. I just lost it. And it took me a moment, a couple of days to, people were doing testimonies on Facebook. So it took me a moment to say what I wanted to say. But the last time I had spent some quality time with him was at the Monterey Jazz Festival. He was waiting for his bus, and I decided to just sit there and talk to him because I wanted to catch up. And he wrote this song for me. Radiance you bring, let it shine, let it shine. It was a beautiful song. And every time he saw me, he would sing that song.
Really?
And so I'm going to miss him singing that song.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. So during this pandemic, we've lost people. I know you lost some people. Lost jazz musicians. I mean, it's been really
Wallace.
Very, challenging, very challenging. But the DC Jazz Festival, you did an online virtual jazz festival.
200,000 people.
How'd you pull that off? Come on, talk to me.
Look, it's a team effort. Willard Jenkins is artistic director. Matt, Schuyler, Mickey. Umrau was involved this year. Mecca Filmworks, an amazing film crew. Our board. We just decided we didn't want to do archival content. We wanted to do original programming.
Okay.
And for us, the biggest thing, Antonio, is that I needed to write checks to musicians. That's what I said to my board. We need to write as many checks as we can write to musicians right now because their world is just falling apart.
Beautiful.
And so that was the catalyst for doing this.
It was beautiful. It was like that. I mean, y'all really did it.
And Duke Ellington School opened up the doors so we could do Ben Williams and Matthew Whitaker there. Yeah. Mark Carey came by and we did a tour. He hadn't been in the school since. Mark Carey came and did an amazing set. Danilo.
Yes.
God bless him. I love him so much.
Very well, beautiful.
It was so great.
And do you have to plan a year in advance? And or how does that work?
I mean, we are long-term thinkers. So right now we're thinking, what are we going to do in 5 years?
Okay.
But when but when we thought about moving from June to September, we didn't have the same lineup because we were going to be presenting an incredible lineup outdoors. So we had to pivot to September and then consider who we would reach out to. We wanted to make sure we had an international flair to it, so that's what we brought. Canadian artists, we had Danilo, Gifton Gillen played. But then we also wanted to make sure that DC was represented. So that's why we had so many DC
It was
artists.
beautiful. And you did a wonderful job. I mean, and I'm sure you had to do it in a short amount of time.
We did.
Yeah, and
We did.
But I thought it was really, really nice.
Those look, that's the art. Those are the musicians. That's the jazz art we've been talking about, right? I mean, look, we're just providing the platform, but
So
if we didn't have exceptional artistry to present.
So do you think nobody knows how long this thing's gonna go on? So how do you plan, not knowing?
We're going to plan for 2021 and knowing that it will be a hybrid of live and virtual.
Okay.
We will probably be able to do something outdoors, social distance protocols in place, because I do know that for my own soul, what's missing from my life is live music.
Live music,
I
yes.
had no idea how much it fed me.
Yeah.
And so I can't wait to get back out and to just hear live music when we can do it safely. And we want to definitely make it available for people that don't feel comfortable yet. So we're talking about September.
Okay.
Again, as opposed to our annual June.
Got you. Got a couple more questions.
Okay.
We almost done. I want to talk about leadership real quick. You are obviously a leader, and one of a kind. For those of us who are trying to learn leadership, what does it take to be a leader? I mean, what do we need to work on?
What do we need to work? Well, I think you're a leader. What are you talking about? I think for most people who go into leadership roles, it's a natural ability that you have to lead.
And have you always had
I've
that?
always had that ability to lead, to guide, to direct.
Now, how do you deal with conflict? Are you still Sunny? Because everybody got that other side. You got to have that other side.
I like conflict resolution. I'll take the Bishop Tutu approach to reconciliation any day over war. So that's, I mean, if that's the answer to your question, I would hope that conflict I'm able to. For me, it's about how do we resolve it.
So you try to stay positive.
I try to stay positive.
Gotcha. That's beautiful. Next question is, why should we keep jazz alive? Why? I'm asking a rhetorical question, but for those who don't know,
Why is he asking that question?
Why is it important that we continue to support jazz and continue to keep jazz alive?
Well, why do we support any art form? Why are we supporting hip hop? Because there's something for everybody. It's entertaining. It's enjoyable. It enriches our lives. It's something that becomes the fabric of our lives, right? When we think about music, whatever form it is, some point when there's something momentous is happening in your life, there's a soundtrack to it, right?
doubt.
So I think the jazz does that. I think we have so many aspects of this music that when I'm cooking, I'm got in the background. When I want to just listen to something intentional, then I pull out and say, oh, I want to listen to Keith Jarrett right now. I want to listen to Diane Reeves. But I just think the jazz is thriving. I don't think that I think we have to get away from the question of why do we keep it alive. It's alive. It's
alive.
Living. It's breathing. It's doing its thing.
Yeah.
Now, is it going off into some variations? I was just on a panel recently and listening to 18 and 19, 20-year-olds submitting material. It's different.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah.
It's different.
I like the old school and new school. I mean,
Yeah.
But what I would like for our young people is that they be open and not put jazz in these.
I don't think they're doing it.
Yeah. So, like I'm just speaking for my son. And I'm into hip hop. I'm into all that stuff. Did you know I was gonna be a rapper one day?
Yes. I've been on the listening ear of some of that.
So I stay.
We had spent some time together, Howard. If you don't remember.
So and so I don't know if I listen to music from 1900 and music is. I enjoy the whole spectrum
It's
of music.
amazing.
I like what's going on today.
Yes.
And I just want our young people to listen to the music your time, but also go back and get some of that stuff that can take the stuff that you do to
That's
and,
right.
and take another level.
I think that's it. I mean, and it probably is, choreographers are saying the same thing to budding
doubt.
dancers, and I think we all have a lot to learn from our past. It shapes our present,
Yes.
and builds our future. So, I'm excited about jazz in so many ways.
Gotcha.
We just got to get some clubs together so we can have places to play after this pandemic.
That's right. Last question.
Okay.
How can people support the DC Jazz Festival? And you can look right into the...
So you want to go to DCJazzFest.org and join the mailing list.
Yes.
Because we send out information all the time, and we'll keep you posted on what we're doing with education and what we're doing with the festival, which you got a sneak preview that it's happening in September. We hadn't even announced that yet, but that's how you stay in touch with us.
Well, I just want to say thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Yes, it was my pleasure. I'm honored. It's my honor.
It's wonderful to spend this time with you,
Yes,
Antonio.
we learned so much about Sunny Sumter. Most people didn't know, and that's what this is. It's just because we want you. Just didn't pop up here.
No.
Yeah,
It's
you
been a
have
journey.
Yeah, it's been
I
a journey.
have a story.
And you're still shining.
And I'm
You're
still
still
shining.
glowing. And of course we can't get everything in this little bit
But
of time.
I've shared a lot.
Yes, you did, and I'm honored.
That's because
that you
you're
did.
my brother.
Yes,
That's why
and
did that.
I certainly appreciate you. Thank you. And we'll be keeping our ears open for what's happening
Yes.
with DC Jazz Festival. Thank you.
Yes, thank
All right.
you.
All right. So, thank you. We were listening to the wonderful Sunny Sumter, and this is a conversation in jazz. We'll see you on the next one.